Xavien Howard, Devil's Digest. I know that after the Texas State game, you talked about the team handling success and going on the road with that element in play. Is that going to be the message you think this week too? Just handling success, playing better on the road, aside just from the normal X's and O's game plan?
Yeah, definitely. Playing on the road and then a really good opponent. This team has 2 losses by 4 points total. Otherwise, they'd be undefeated in a top 15 team in the country if you flip 4 points in their season, which is crazy to think about, but that's the sport. So, finical it is. I think that's the right word. It's close. But that's how close it is for them being undefeated. So we got a great challenge ahead of us. It's some special weekend. I think it's Parents' Weekend or it's homecoming. There it is, homecoming weekend for them, so it's going to be loud. It's at 9 a.m. our time, so that's a challenge. So we got a lot of challenges ahead of us, and it's all about us, and we got to stay focused on the work and the prep before we get there.
Chris Cartman, Son of a Source, sort of a two-parter. You mentioned on the Sparky's Den show before Kansas that you wanted to see more explosive runs, and then those just came in a big flurry the last couple games. And also Cam Scadaboo had only, I think, 1 run of more than 20 yards last season, and this year there's just been a whole bunch of them. So how much have those things rounded out and impacted your offense?
Oh, they're catastrophically different. He's a different player than last year. He's not the same player. He's dropped 10 to 15 pounds. He's in such a better shape. He clocked 21.8 in the game last week, which miles per hour, which is really good. Last year, if he hit ever a 20, it was awesome. More than likely, he was in the 19s. And now he's on the verge of hitting 21 in week 6 in the fourth quarter. And then on top of that, I think the explosive runs, one, we're better up front. Our guys are giving better effort. Explosive plays directly are correlated with perimeter blocking and effort at the same time. So I think the combination of we're better up front, he's a better version of himself, we're giving more effort. I think it's just a combination. And then, with DeCarlos playing more in the first half, I think he's been fresh in the fourth quarter of games, which is when most of these explosive runs have been rattled off, is in these fourth quarters when teams maybe are a little tired or fatigued from us running the ball earlier, and then he still has 7 to 8 carries left in him at a pretty high level, and then he kind of takes advantage of it.
Coach Richard Science, Fox 10, good to see you. Just wanted to ask you about that moment after the game when you kind of disappeared to the student section with the crowd. What's the reaction you've been getting from that, and what was that like?
Honestly, I don't know. Guys, I'm an emotional person. I get excited. We talked about this in my press conference the other day. Just be yourself, and that's my personality. That's who I am. So people were excited. People were cheering around me. So I'm gonna be excited, cheer with them, and enjoy it. It's hard to win in college football. You better enjoy them, and then you better be able to rebalance yourself to get right back to work. And but you better enjoy the moments. What's the point of living if you don't ever have fun and you don't ever enjoy the success when you put in work? And that's kind of what I told the guys in the locker room after the game as well.
Yeah, you said, be yourself. It's obvious that these are authentic and organic moments. What's it like to see these kids come to this program when it's easy to take the easy way out nowadays, but these kids knew what was at stake coming here, and then to put in the work and then enjoy a moment like this with you?
Yeah, it's awesome. And, the process is always more important than the result, right? We're process driven. Success to us is being the very best you can be all the time at whatever you're doing. That's how we define it. But I always tell guys life and games are filled with moments, right? You either win the moment and you pick the ball off like Caleb and you win the game, and then you get to celebrate a moment, or you miss that moment and then you don't celebrate because you lose the game. And it's so close. But if you get distracted with are you good or bad based off of a few moments, right, then you're going to wind up losing a lot more than you should win. And I think that's what people mean by when they say you have to stay the course and you can't be results driven, is you have to enjoy the moments. I firmly believe that. But you also have to be honest with yourself and say we're 10 plays away from being 1-5. And if you have those real conversations that if these moments would have gone a different direction, right, we could have a 2-5. We could have a whole different season. or what is that? 2 and 4, bad math. And I think, but for us, I think that's really the key: is enjoy the moments, embrace the moments, but don't get distracted by the moments, and you got to get back to work.
Hey, Coach Jordan Ham, Sports 360 AZ. Have seen this term pop up a few times on social media and wanted to, hopefully you could provide some context to hot diggity dam.
Yeah, I don't even know where I learned that, but I said it in a team meeting once, and everybody thought it was funny, and I don't know, I guess I've said it for a while. I mean, I don't know where I learned it. I don't know probably learned it somewhere. It's probably an old term or something, but yeah, hot diggity damn. That's what I say when I get excited. Like, hot diggity damn. That's crazy. Like, I don't know. I wish I had more of a story for you other than that. So the guys laugh at me, They know I'm a nerd and old school, no swag, all that stuff. They know that's me, so it's part of it.
And that's kind of become a rallying cry of sorts?
I wouldn't say a rallying cry, more like laughing at me, not with me deal. I'd say whatever you call that.
Okay, Nick King from 3TV CBS 5. Wondering how much you've been hearing from people outside the program and what you've been hearing wondering about Cam and what he's been doing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people are fired up about him. Obviously, how hard he plays and the plays that he's making, specifically in the fourth quarter of games, even whether it's on kickoff or not. So people are fired up about him. Cam knows I'm probably going to be his hardest critic, and I'm probably going to be the person that's hard on him the most of anybody. So I don't really tell him all the good things people say. But people are saying a lot of good things. And it's, like I said, testament to him. I told people that, I believe, before the season started, how much work he's put in to put his body in a position to go do what he's doing. So people who think he's flipping a switch right now and then going out and playing well, you didn't see the work that he put in and the time and the commitment that he made to not only change his body, change his physical ability, but to also change his mindset. And it's a lot harder to change your mindset when you've been doing something at a high level like he had for so long. And so testament to him. All the success is on him. I mean, he's making unbelievable plays out there.
Hey, Coach Blake Neiman, Sun Devil Source. Do you have any injury updates on some guys who were out last week that may be back?
No, most of the guys that were out last week are probably going to be out. We got to see. They're going to try to work their way back this week, but more than likely, I'd say they'd be out. But we haven't really run around yet this week, so there hasn't been a real assessment. Maybe you get a Watley back, or maybe you get a Tate back. Potentially no chance on Raleek yet. There's not worth it with a bye coming up. So maybe you get those guys back depending on how they feel. But leading up into a bye, you never want to, especially some certain types of injuries, you never want to, ever force a kid in. But you definitely want to play a little bit conservative when you can get 2 extra weeks after to maybe get somebody completely healthy for the long haul.
Coach, obviously the 2 interceptions by Caleb, the interception by Keith. I know last season talked about, it took a little bit to get turnovers and they come in bunches. But looking back, obviously, to the first game, the Wyoming game, the first touchdown of the season being a defensive touchdown. How do you feel it's, obviously helped the defense, but just is it one of those things that it starts and it just comes in bunches? Yeah,
definitely. A few of those, like I said, some turnovers are lucky, and then some are you just continue to work and work and work and punch the ball out and around the ball and you give effort. I don't think those are the lucky ones. Sometimes the quarterback throws you the ball. To be honest, I think those are the lucky ones. They threw it to you and you caught it, right? I think the ones that are hard are the ones where you knock a ball out or the ball is loose and your effort was the reason that you fell on it. I think those are the ones that you can create through effort and intensity. But Caleb did a great job reading eyes in the game and, both zone coverages, which he's a quarterback eyes guy. And he's a veteran, and he made 2 great plays. And same with Keith. After we got the caution tape out of his pants to start the game, it was nice. That wasn't a joke. He had caution tape in his pants.
Hey, Coach. Ryan Myers, Devil's Digest. You guys were just outside the top 25 this week, got some votes for the first time this season. Have you taken any thought to that kind of stuff, and have you heard any player chatter about where you guys kind of sit now that you're getting closer and closer to those rankings?
Yeah, I really don't care. I truly don't care. I mean, the only thing that could possibly make me care is recruits may care. Other than that, I really don't care at all. I really don't even talk about I don't even talk about winning with our guys ever, or records ever. Never have, never will. Like, I don't go into a meeting, oh, we're 5-1. This is now so much more difficult of a task trying to get to 6 in the bowl. We'll never talk about results. We always talk about the process of how to be successful. Repeat, 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 repeat. And if you continue to do that, you're going to continue to have really fun moments. If you get lost in the moments, your fun moments are going to disappear, and the bad moments are going to show up more. So let's just stay focused on us and stay focused on the process.
To kind of follow up with that, then, how do you feel about this game in terms of like the Utah game, in terms of like where you guys have kind of elevated as a program and that kind of like yardstick of like, oh, maybe we're at this portion now, we've hit a different hump now?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think for us, it just shows that we're in the right direction. I think when I always say Utah, in my opinion, is a standard, what I mean is their top to bottom consistency to sustain success and sustain a high-level program is impressive. And that's the part when I say, they're the model. It's not, oh, you can't beat a Utah team. It is, how do you consistently be a team that's always upper echelon, consistently be a team who wins 5 or 6 games at home every year because the crowd is so loud. Teams have to go on silent cadence. Every single play, you have to be on silent cadence when you're in those stadiums, and there's a direct relationship between that and winning. And how do you create sustainability with your coaching staff and your assistants? They've created that, and that's what's created their sustainability. So it's not Utah as the team, it's Utah as the program that they've built. And I definitely think it shows the direction that our team is heading. But we have a long way to go just in general before we can be that program. That's years away of stability.
Hey, Kenny, Max Pitt, Arizona's family.
I just saw you.
I know. I ran into you as you're getting out of your car. Talked about this week and specifically the program like Cincinnati with Coach Satterfield and with the quarterback Brendan Sorsby. Obviously, a lot of people maybe didn't have expectations for Cincinnati coming into the season like yourself in this program, 14th in the conference preseason, but 2nd in offense yards per game, 4th in points allowed. What have you just seen from that team as a whole with what they did last week and especially out of that quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Satterfield does a really good job offensively. He's always done a really good job offensively. Wide zone team, play action shots, move the pocket, move the quarterback, throw to their tight ends, solo their best wideout up and try to win one-on-ones, create angles in the running game. Like, he does a phenomenal job offensively. It's not the wide open spread world. It's not we're going to run it directly at you with the same scheme. It's that schemed up 12 personnel run game stuff, which is a little bit unique in college football. You see more of that in the NFL, in my opinion, than you see it in college. So he does a really good job scheming up his 12 personnel runs with offset fullbacks and locked runs and angles to help, and then that sets up the play action game. And the quarterback is playing arguably as good as any quarterback in our league right now. His efficiency is through the roof. He's locating the ball. He's big, so they can run him in the red zone. They can run him on 3rd down. So they do a really good job. And then defensively, obviously their defense coordinator came from Iowa State. I actually went and met and studied with them about 4 years ago, and studied with him specifically because we played him when I was at Memphis back in 2018. We played them in a bowl game. They whipped our butt. And we just talked back and forth. That was when that defense started because he was the one who kind of brought it over to Iowa State from the D3 school or D2 school he was at. He brought that over, so he's kind of one of the originators of it. For him to become the defense coordinator there now in year 1, you can see a lot of, the identity of his toughness and physicality with the monster fits. Everybody thinks the monster fit defense is about not giving up the run. In reality, the way they play it is you better load up because they're going to fit the box with essentially 7 or 8 plus 1 almost every fit. And they may be from depth, but they're going to be violent and they're going to be physical. And kudos to him because he's got those guys playing hard.
Hey, Kenny, Damon Allred, Arizona Sports. Expanding off that, with Shaman and Justin both being former Bearcats, are there conversations to be had about their inside perspective as well as their approach going into this week?
No, to be honest. Different staff, for them, different defense coordinator. So for me, it's not really the conversations can you emotionally handle going back home to play? Like, just do your job. Like, that piece of it more than anything for me is like, this isn't about you, this is about us. And I'll eventually have that conversation if I think it's needed. But both those guys, couldn't be happier with both of those guys in our football team. Sometimes when you recruit kids out of the portal, people don't like kids leaving their program. And sometimes, they spill milk, and there's not even from coaches, but people around the program or scouts that go there. And both those kids have been nothing but unbelievable workers, unbelievable people, super intelligent, joy to have in the building, impact players on game day. So I couldn't be more fired up that both those guys are on our team and are representing ASU football.
There was a lot of talk last week about the challenges that come with playing on a short week. Now that you're on the other side of that, but also have a 9 a.m. game on Saturday, how does that extra day affect the way you are able to prep and get the guys ready for a unique time for them to play?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, if you look at the right now in college football, traveling 3 time zones and the win percentage, like I told our guys, is very, very, very low. If you just looked at that, you didn't even look at the football teams, you just said, who's traveling 3 time zones? And you bet on the other team, you're going to win the majority because it's such a challenge, especially for college athletes who maybe don't go to bed when they should, like a pro athlete does when he's preparing to do that. So for us, we're bumping everything up an hour all week. So Tuesday, everything's going to be an hour earlier. Our meetings, Wednesday, everything's an hour earlier. We're getting out there on Thursday to try to, and then when we get there on Thursday, everything's hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes earlier. So we're trying to get their clock changed starting tomorrow, which means instead of waking up at 5, I get to wake up at 4. So that's exciting. But other than that, we're really trying to negate what you just talked about, that early time frame, by getting their body clock started on Tuesday, not just when we get there early on Thursday.
Yeah, Kenny, your depth has been very valuable on the defensive front and linebacker. What have you thought about that? Has it met sort of expectations that you had for the season? And then are there areas where your depth is not quite as solid thus far?
Yeah, I definitely feel like the D-line and the linebacker depth has been awesome. Safety depth, even though you can't really rotate safeties as much. But the D-line and the linebacker depth has been huge for us. We've almost lost one D lineman for one game, or at least a portion of a game. I think we've everybody but Elijah, for the most part, has been out at some point, and we haven't skipped a beat. And that's a testament to the depth. And then linebacker, the same boat. Tate's been out, Crook's been out. You just saw Keyshawn out. Like, we've had a variety of people out, and we haven't skipped a beat. In terms of the depth, I think our wideout depth, we've had a few people banged up. Elijah leaving in the summer. Malik, us choosing to redshirt him. So we definitely, don't have as much depth at that position currently. That hopefully we get better at.
Doug Franz Unplugged podcast. Number one, I don't know, when you watch film, do you watch just snap to whistle, or do you watch between plays?
Both.
The reason why I ask is you may or may not have a highly emotional running back that waves at the crowd to get up and make noise when you've been saying you want them quiet on offense.
So funny. We're in our team meeting today, and in our 4-minute drill, he's up there behind, hyping the crowd up, and I'm like, what are you doing? We want them to be quiet. We don't want them to yell. And but you know what? It goes back to, give me the dog who bites, not the dog who barks, and let me try to tame him. But don't let me teach aggressiveness. That's too hard. It's too hard to teach people how to be passionate and how to love it. And, that's difficult. Way easier to teach a kid how to tame down than how to say go. So, I would like it to be quiet when we're on offense.
The second question is, you made reference, I think it was after the game, to a conversation you had with Graham. And at 5-1, this is now where SEC, Big Ten schools start flirting around with your agent. You'll have people wanting to pillage your staff. You're going to have people all over trying to get ASU. What was that conversation like with Graham? Is it a 5-year plan? Is it a 2-year plan? Why do you feel confident that this program's actually going to take what you've done and do the things that needed to be done behind the scenes?
Well, I just take people for their word to a fault, maybe. It's probably, I've been burned quite a few times just by, I naturally trust people just because I know if I say something to somebody, it's going to happen. So if somebody says something to me, I expect it to be the same thing. It's like I'm building a house right now, and they said it was going to be done in July. They told me today it's still not done until the middle of December. And, that bothers me because it's like, if I tell you my word, I expect it to get done. And even though that's, I guess, how housing works, it's, still frustrating. But it's that same thing in this aspect is if somebody tells you that they're going to do something, you give them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to get it done, and you're going to trust them because they've done nothing to not do that in return. So, I'm excited for the next few weeks, for the next couple weeks to see, what the university and see them, make moves and commit to the program. And, getting towards the end of the season, the staff's the most important part. The staff's what makes it go, the staff and the players. And we got to make sure we get those two things taken care of, the staff and the players moving forward to create that consistency programs like Utah have.
When you tried to establish the culture over here, since you got over here, the sign in the locker room, I would say maybe it's the 4 pillars of the program. Smart, tough, which maybe evokes Todd Graham memories.
Character smart. Discipline tough.
Kinda. And then the ball, the team. Can you talk about how those 4 pillars have really contributed to the success this year, and what do they mean to you?
Yeah, smart. Well, I think you have to play smart football. You have to know when to go down when you have a lead, like we did versus Mississippi State, right? You have to know that it's 3rd down and teams are going to try to get you to jump off sides on defense, right? You have to know the rules. You have to know to push somebody into the ball like we did with Zyrus on the punt return team that they had two weeks ago that was close to a fumble. Smart football wins. Most teams lose games. They don't win them. They lose them. Tough is not just physical, but it's mental. It's the ability to respond. Earlier in the year, we talked about the toughness to respond to failure, which is what we're used to responding to, but then it's even harder to respond to success. And now we're getting to that point where we have to grow from that aspect. The ball is the game. If you have the ball, if you turn over the ball, if you take care of the ball, right, the ball is the game. So it's self-explanatory. And then the team is how hard are you going to play? What are you willing to sacrifice for the team, right? We talked about last week, you play Utah. They limit possessions. Nobody puts up big numbers usually versus Utah. If you have 0 catches in the 3rd quarter, are you going to be down, or are you going to be like, let's go? It's a tie game. And I think part of the style of play they play with, usually leading the country in time of possession, they get the mental side of kids out of their game because they're so worried about their own individual statistics and what they've accomplished in the game that it takes kids out of their element and out of their game. And we talked about you have to be willing to sacrifice this week to win the football game, and I think we had a lot of guys who did that.
Kenny, Steve Nash, was that this morning?
Yeah, Steve Nash spoke to the team this morning. I wanted a guy to come speak to the team. Listening to me all the time gets monotonous. So come talk to somebody else just about leadership, the process. I think he was a process guy. I really remember him, his pregame shoot-arounds, and he kind of talked to our guys about the pregame shoot-arounds, and then him going to the bench and putting the heat pack on his back. I remember the things that he did in his process to be able to play at the level he did for so long. And I think it was important for our guys. He was local. We talk about activating the Valley. That's one of the legends of the Valley, to come back, speak to your guys just about his process, what it takes to be successful. And then our guys got to ask him some questions, and I think our guys were fired up. He made a shot, when he entered the room, so that was pretty cool because we have a basketball hoop in there. Shocking, right, that he made it. But no, it was. I think it was good for our guys. It also just, in my opinion, humbles you. Oh, you're feeling good about yourself. Oh, look at all these people tweeting about me, and then oh yeah, there's 2-time MVP walked in. Who am I? Yeah, humble yourself. Let's get back to work, boys, because you got a long way to go because success is relative. And even though you think you're successful right now, you're not even a pimple compared to what some people's success is. So you better re-humble yourself and get back to work.
Can you share some insights on just how that came together? Is that something you guys have been talking about for a while now? Or?
So, I have a close friend, Jessica, and she connected me with Steve because I mentioned with her that I wanted to get, around Steve and get him connected because he was in the community with our guys. She made a connection about 3 weeks ago, and then we reached out. And then, obviously, he said he wanted to come talk, so I said this would be a good day, and it was perfect. I think it's perfect timing. I think his message was perfect, and thank you to Jessica for helping connect that because that was, I think, really cool for our guys.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach Tuckerson at Cronkite News. Can you just talk about kind of the linebacker core coming up in a lot of big moments this year and what you think is behind all that?
Yeah, well, that's one of the groups that's never on lists. Very similar to the O-line group. The two groups that are never on list in our program are O-line and linebackers. Never on an academic list. They're never late. Always early. They always give effort. So I think it's a testament to Coach Cooper and the leadership in that room because it's not ironic. It's not a surprise to me when they make good plays because that group puts in the work.
Kenny, last week you were talking about kind of creating a buzz around here and having people say, oh, did you see that play? Did you see that game? I know it was about stacking them, but it feels like you were saying everyone's tweeting about me. Scats run, your post-game interview felt like things that everyone was talking about nationally. Is that something you felt in the last couple of days that was a conversation, you guys?
Yeah, you definitely feel it, and it's awesome. That's part of why you want to play Thursday and Friday games. You just hope the opposing team doesn't have a bye before you do it. But you do hope to play those games because it puts you on a national stage, and there shouldn't be any competitive. Normally, there's not a competitive advantage. You both play early. So normally it's even advantage, and you get a national stage to do that. But, I mean, I don't know the exact saying, but you fall way faster than you climb. So all this great, oh, cool, look how cool we are, and all these cool tweets. Fumble the ball once, Scat, see what happens. Like, us lose a game, Kenny, see what happens. Like, that's the nature of the world that we're in, is it's all what have you done for me lately. People are looking at coaches who have had success over tens of years, and oh, look at the mistakes they're making. It's the nature of the beast, right? And you got to enjoy those moments. And it's great for the fan base. It's great for recruiting. But you individually as a person got to realize, like, this is a flash in the pan. And you could wake up in 5 days and the exact opposite will be said about you. So you better not put your name in the Twitter search handle because if you build that habit, you're going to be in trouble.
How you doing, Coach? DeAndre, Cronkite News. What type of impact has players like your Tillman Leadership Council had on the success of your team this year?
Oh, vital. We meet with those guys once a week. I get a beat on how their bodies feel for practice. I get a beat on what guys that they think, may need me to come meet with them and chop it up and make sure they know that they're valued, because sometimes people get lost, throughout a season and they need to be talked to. And those guys help me with that. Those guys help me in terms of setting the tempo of the team. I can say what the standard is, but the standard that I set should always be the minimum expectation. It's those guys that set the real standard. And I think guys like X, Shamari, CJ Fight, Leaf, I could go on, Sam Levitt, Trenton Bourget, Melquan Stovall, like all of those guys set a standard in practice and prep and how they work that your best players set it. And those guys are setting a high standard and other people have to reach it. I felt at times last year our best players didn't set our highest standard. And when your best players don't set your highest standard, then you have no chance. And this year I think our best players are working the hardest and they believe. They believe in the process. They believe what we're doing is right. And I think part of that is because they have a say in what we're doing. Bottom line. Take a little more ownership when you're the one who wants to do something. When I approve the schedule with you every week, and you're like, yeah, that looks good. Well, then it's on us. It's not me. We're in this together. We're doing this. It's a different mindset.
Hey, Coach. Douglas Santos, Sun Devil Daily. Talking about those leaders, X obviously had to sit out last season. Now this year, a leader on defense. What have you seen the growth in him as a person and as a player?
Yeah, he's just more vocal this year. Obviously, you can't be vocal when you're on the sidelines. Like, you got to actually play the game. And him as a player, he's just more comfortable. I think he's a little faster than he was last year. Last year, he was lifting more than he was practicing and playing, so naturally you get a little bit stiffer. I think he's gotten looser throughout spring and throughout fall camp. Lost a little bit of weight by design, which is good, to be a little bit more. He moved from boundary safety to free safety, which was a good move for him because he's got a really good knack for the ball. And he's made a lot of open field tackles that could have gotten loose for big plays. So I just think his overall flexibility and mobility is better. And then his leadership of he's passionate, he cares a lot. A lot. And kids feed off that. So when you're a competitor, when you have the game taken away from you and then you respond and fight and crawl to get back to where he is today, and then you're an emotional leader, I think kids rely behind that. Sun shirt. I like it.